Through its Grid Innovation Fund, Ontario's independent electricity system operator, along with its partners, is investing $6.8 million across several projects to explore innovative approaches to help consumers conserve and manage energy. These projects range from wastewater and mining to clean energy management software. Now, joining me to talk about the Grid Innovation Fund is Katherine Sparkes, Director, Innovation, Research and Development with IESO. Katherine, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe you can give me a little bit of history about the fund and perhaps some of the projects it's tackled, stuff like that.
Sure. So the fund was created in 2005, and the fund is a mechanism that we have here at the IESO to support the evaluation of novel solutions to help customers better manage their energy use, or solutions that could provide electricity services in the wholesale electricity markets that the ISO administers. So by evaluating additional solutions that can provide those kinds of electricity products and services that we procure, we can increase competition. And we know that increased competition is good for customers in terms of price management. Increasingly, customers are also looking for sustainable energy solutions. So you've heard a lot about electrification and customer-driven decarbonization. So through the Grid Innovation Fund, we can support others in evaluating solutions that can help customers achieve those clean energy goals.
So before I get into asking you about, over time, what has worked and what has perhaps not worked,
Yeah.
maybe we can talk a little bit about the funds process. So how are projects selected? What are the desired outcomes? Although I think you kind of covered that a little bit in
Yeah.
terms of decarbonization and the markets.
Yeah, so there are a couple of or a few things that I think are good to know about how the fund works. We take in projects through a couple of different means. So periodically, we run open calls where we say, "Hey, tell us about." Um, Opportunities and challenges that you customers, nonprofits, private sector, whoever see in terms of electricity needs, and folks can come to us with their ideas on a range of subjects. We also run and are increasingly focused on targeted calls. So targeted calls are where we put out a specific challenge or problem statement and say, bring us your proposed projects that will evaluate solutions to this specific challenge. So for example, recently we ran a joint targeted call for projects to evaluate solutions to distributed energy resource integration in the wholesale markets. And we did that with the Ontario Energy Board. And that's really about looking at solutions to operational and regulatory challenges faced by the increasing number of small-scale electricity resources that can contribute to grid reliability, sustainability, and affordability. When we are evaluating projects and the kinds of evaluation criteria, I think that would be helpful for folks to know about. We're looking at things like, is this a novel solution? So is it something that, that hasn't been deployed in the Ontario context? And we do have a unique electricity market regulatory context in Ontario. We also look at funding put in and resources put in by third parties. So that's important to us to see that there is that solid investment and that commitment from others. And we look at the range of partnerships. So a big part of the fund is about capability building here in Ontario. So, the more partners we see, and we are seeing an increasing number of diverse organizations getting into the energy space. So real estate companies, municipalities, folks who maybe traditionally didn't play in the electricity markets are showing an increased interest. So we look for that partnership component in projects as well.
I like that you mention and you highlight the fact that it sounds like you want the partners to have some skin in the game as well too. It's not just, hey, we had this idea that came to me after I woke up from last night's sleep, and please invest in whatever this thing is.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. That's so important, Anthony, right? Is to see that financial commitment, that skin in the game from partners. We're using ratepayer funds, right? And so we're very, very much aware of our responsibility to use those as prudently as possible. And so, we want to make sure that projects have a strong chance of success, and folks' willingness to put their own money on the line is a strong indication of that potential.
Now let's get back to or look back, if you will. Step into the Wayback Machine, and looking back at the fund's history from 2005 up to present. It's I was reading on IESO's website, and there were some over 200 projects actually that have benefited from investments from the fund. Can you point to any that really stand out for you as having really advanced? The better management of energy consumption, or helped reduce costs, or perhaps at that time they were a novel idea, but maybe now they're a little more mainstream. Is there anything that sticks out for you?
Yeah, there are a couple of projects. So there was a project that we did with an organization called Brickworks in the Ontario Hotel Motel Restaurant Association. And we supported them in testing alternatives to refrigerated food safety. So historically, food refrigeration standards have been very prescriptive, understandably for health and safety reasons, and that results in a certain energy intensity associated with storing that food. So we supported Brickworks in the Ontario Hotel Motel Restaurant Association in looking at whether the freezer set points could be adjusted and in a non-prescriptive way, so a performance-based approach to maintaining frozen food safety, in order to, one, again, reduce the administrative burden on hotel motel restaurants, and save energy, right? Because maintaining food at a certain temperature is energy consumptive. So through this demonstration, we were able to prove that, and the partners were able to successfully work for a regulatory change that moved from a prescriptive approach to food safety standards to more of a performance-based approach, which reduced regulatory burden and resulted in energy efficiency. So that's a great example of a win-win. Another project that we're really proud of is the York Region Non-Wires Alternative Demonstration Project. And this is a project that's funded jointly by the IESO and Natural Resources Canada. And we were working with Electra, the local distribution company in York Region. York Region is a fast growing region of the province. And what we've done there is we've set up a first of its kind in North America local electricity market to look at leveraging the potential of existing customer sited assets to meet local energy needs. So we've run a local capacity auction. We've had an incredible array of market participants show up, and just a diversity in terms of grocery, commercial. We've got residential folks who've contributed the use of their smart thermostats and the ability to adjust and shift energy use using smart thermostats, who have said, hey, you can leverage our assets. We'll shift load in order to reduce demand in this area. And that's proving that we can use those existing assets, and that that generation and that load shifting potential to cost effectively defer investments in traditional distribution infrastructure. So that's going to save ratepayers money, and it's a model that can be replicated in other areas of the province.
Now, for my last question, things need to be tried. Things need to be tested to see if they work, or maybe they don't work with this way, but they will work another way. And so my question to you is, again, looking back over the fund's history and the various investments and projects since 2005, are there any things that stand out for you as we thought this might go somewhere, but it didn't really, but now we know?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. We have had projects that didn't pan out, and I think that's really important that a fund like this one, and there are funds like this one, administered by system operators or utilities throughout North America and other places in the world. And I think it's important that there are some of those those projects that don't work out, or demonstrate that what the thing that was being tested should not be deployed more broadly. And that's a huge aspect of the fund. It's about evaluating those solutions in a way that requires a very limited investment, so that you're not making that much larger investment with ratepayer or public funds, right? And then finding out that it doesn't work. So a top of mind example might be we supported a project that evaluated in-suite thermostats in multifamily residential buildings for electricity savings and load shifting. and found that the incentive that was being offered wouldn't do what it was intended to do in terms of driving that load shifting behavior. So the project demonstrated that the solution that was proposed wasn't a good one, right? And frankly, that was a great outcome in terms of avoiding a much larger investment in a broader scale deployment of that solution. So again, in that sense, that's really the purpose of this fund. It's to provide those investments in a limited way, with folks putting skin in the game, and really get that objective evidence that can demonstrate whether or not they should be deployed more broadly.
I see a couple things there. We talked earlier how partners need to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
So it must be something that they also have some belief in that it will work, and they don't know until it's tried. But that's also how we take a novel idea, and ideally it becomes not so novel, like in the case of your Brickworks example. So, Catherine, if you can reveal it now, when could we expect another call for the Grid Innovation Fund?
We're currently implementing a multi-year plan to integrate a number of emerging resources into the electricity markets, including hybrid resources. And hybrid resources are combinations of storage, energy storage, and generation. So we've committed to stakeholders to run a target call for hybrid resources this year in order to understand and evaluate solutions to the challenges facing hybrid resources in participating in the wholesale market, so that they can provide a greater contribution to meeting Ontario's reliability needs and electricity affordability, and those growing customer preferences for clean energy that we talked about earlier.
Thanks for taking the time to talk about the Grid Innovation Fund, highlight some of the projects, kind of how the process works, so that ideally people would say, "Oh, hey, I have an idea, and I think it could go further."
Yeah, well, thanks for making the time to talk with us, Anthony. We're really excited about the work that we do through the Grid Innovation Fund. We're, excited about the enthusiasm of the proponents, and the resources that they bring to the projects, and about the value of the fund in supporting projects that are really driving reliability, affordability, and solutions of tomorrow that are going to enable increasing customer preferences around clean energy.
Well said. Thanks again, Catherine.
Thanks, Anthony, so much.